everybody, it's your boy Gsluke here for our round 2 prize picks targets for the Travelers Championship. Round 1 was a weird one. We had 2 of our plays withdraw, so they were DMPs, didn't count, and out of the last 3 we went 2 for 3, so hardly a little bit of profit, 1.25x, which you can't complain about. We have a little bit of extra change to roll over here into the second round, but if Jordan Spieth would have just came through for us, it could have been a pretty nice one. But in either circumstance, with those withdrawals, nothing we can really do about that. But we have some data about this golf course. Of course, rounds 2 through 4 tend to be our most profitable here on the channel because we're a data-driven channel. We react to how the golf course is playing, take a look at the weather forecast, gauge how we expect the course to play, and that's where we're able to go out there and print some cash. So I'm really looking forward to the next round here. Going to cover the weather, like I said, how I expect the course to play, and lastly, my top 5 props here for Friday's round. It's going to be a 10x parlay, going out there for the big bucks in hopes of taking it all down. So a lot to talk about. Let's go ahead and hop right on in. Alrighty, I'm super excited to hop into this, and we'll start off with a review of the golf course. Here in the first round, played a little bit more difficult than we would have expected. So if we go ahead and sort this by the wave, split it by the people that played in the morning versus those that were playing in the quote-unquote PM wave, you can see there was about a half shot difference. In the morning, the golf course played like it has for the last 2 to 3 years, close to about a third of a stroke under par. That was the exact scoring average we saw in 2021, whereas in the afternoon, it played close to 2/10 of a stroke over par. A lot of that was due to the wind, but even more importantly, because the greens were getting a little bit firmer and faster. If you saw the video from early in the week, you knew that there was going to be rain in the forecast there on Tuesday and Wednesday, and now that that has moved through the area, it's getting a lot less humid up there in Cromwell, Connecticut. You're getting greens that are starting to bake out. As a result, greens are getting harder to hit, and of course from the putting perspective, you're dealing with greens that are running faster, which also adds difficulty for these players. So as this effect continues throughout the weekend, I would expect scoring conditions to get slightly more difficult day after day. Now granted, with that effect in mind, there's also going to be perfect weather tomorrow. So if we take a look at the wind forecast, or even just from the precipitation standpoint, nothing to really worry about, right? In the morning, 1 to 3 miles an hour of sustained winds. So if we're going to have any sort of advantage, it would be for the morning wave. Ideally, you'd want to play in the morning anyways, even if you just had perfect weather across the board, because you have perfect greens in the morning. There's no spike marks on them, ball indentations, or any sort of things like that. But even more importantly, more receptive greens. In the morning, you have that dew that's on the ground, which also makes the greens a little bit easier to hit, able to apply a little bit more spin on receptive greens, which is also an advantage for those that tee off early. But even in the afternoon, you're dealing with just 5 to 9 miles an hour of sustained winds, with wind gusts to like 9 to 12 miles an hour. So nothing really to speak of there. So in terms of playing conditions, it expected to play pretty close to what we saw this afternoon. In the morning, probably going to play slightly under par. In the afternoon, probably close to maybe 0.2, 0.3 shots over par, right? Because the wind conditions are going to be perfect tomorrow, I expect this place to be gettable, but not crazy gettable because of the fact that it's getting firmer and faster. So those effects are going to kind of counteract each other. But like I said, if you're going to try and target any specific group of players, like if you're favoring one half of the field versus the other, it's going to be that morning half because of those receptive greens. They're going to be a little bit more perfect, and also a little bit lower winds there in the AM wave. Now let's talk about my favorite props. So we're going to go ahead and start with birdies, or better, actually, we'll start with greens this time. We're going to start with Keegan Bradley at 12.5 greens. He's teeing off in the morning wave. You can see a 7:35 tee time, and he's also one of the better iron players in the field. Today, the average greens was right around 13 for the field. So for somebody like Keegan Bradley to be at 12.5, also somebody who's an elite level iron player, makes him one of my favorite plays on the board. Frankly, I don't understand it. I think he should be projected for closer to 13, probably even 13.5 greens from a line perspective, and I'd consider taking the over at that number. I mean, he's playing in the advantageous wave. He's coming in playing solid golf, competing at the US Open for Christ's sake, and he's even, 2 or 3 under par to start the tournament. So frankly, I don't understand this line at all. I think it's one of the more mispriced lines I've seen for quite some time. So I kind of teased any line down in the Discord chat. This is the one I'm talking about here. This line here with Keegan Bradley. So taking the over at 12.5, I have him projected for closer to 13.8 greens at this golf course. So absolutely love that number there. Next up, we have Tom Hoge at 12 greens. Another number I absolutely love. Have him projected for close to 13.4 greens. And though he's teeing off in the afternoon, you get him at 12, not 12.5. We don't have to worry about that hook. Like I said, the average was closer to 13 on the day, and that was regardless of skill set. With Tom Hoge, you have an elite level iron player who of late hasn't really been playing his best golf. That's why you haven't seen him going out there and smashing on his projections. But at the same time, over a 50 or 100 round sample size, you're talking about a top 25, maybe even a top 10th percentile player when it comes to his shots gained approach numbers. So from a longer term perspective, the more and more of a sample size that you give to somebody like a Tom Hoge, the better he's going to look in your projections. So I'm a long-term guy. I always like to, kind of ignore the last 1 to 2 rounds, unless it was something drastic, something injury-wise, or something narrative-based that we're going to have to act on. But here with the Tom Hoge, I think that this is a great situation to take the over on, especially when I have him projected for almost a whole green in regulation in a half more than his projection here. Alrighty, the next category we're going to is going to be birdies or better, where we're taking a look at Mark Leishman and Siwoo Kim at 3.5 birdies apiece. So we'll start with Mark Leishman here, who first off is one of my favorite players on the board. Oh, I have Keegan Bradley in twice here. Sorry, it's supposed to be Mark Leishman up here at 3.5 birdies. Either circumstance, Mark Leishman today only made 1 birdie, and that's why he's towards the bottom of this board. And frankly, he's somebody who has bad rounds from time to time. You're going to get something like you saw today, about once every 4 to 5 rounds from him. But in those other rounds, he's going to be an extremely volatile player for better or worse. Somebody who shoots 4 to 5 under par, or somebody that shoots 4 to 5 over par. You'll know real early which version of Mark Leishman you're going to get, but it all comes down to the iron play. And today, he was all over the place. He was short-siding himself early, but the one thing he had working for him was that flat stick. Was extremely solid with the putter. I mean, makes a ton of 10 to 15 footers today when it came to par putts, and his 1 birdie on the day came towards the end of his round. So even though he, was kind of just getting by all day, holding it together for a 1-over round, I expect him to take that momentum that he captured late, take that hot flat stick that he had for the entire day, perhaps find something on his range session tomorrow morning. And if he can just go out there and hit, 7 to 8 greens, I think that could be more than enough to get to the 4 birdies. You're talking about a drivable par 4, 2 par 5s that are more than reachable, and 2 for Mark Leishman. And then plenty of holes where if he's able to hit a fairway, he's going to have less than 120 yards into the green. So Mark Leishman, one of the better wedge players that you're going to see on all of the PGA Tour. I'm looking to go out there, make at least 4, 5, maybe even 6 birdies for the second round and get himself through the cut line. And I think that's something else that's also working in his advantage, is that he's outside the cut line. He has to be aggressive, right? He, obviously his motivation is in line with ours, where he can't be conservative and make it through to Saturday and Sunday, right? He has to go out there and score, which is directly in line with what we're hoping happens here for Friday's round. Also, we've got Siwoo Kim, who's also behind the 8 ball, didn't have the best round, but unlike Mark Leishman, was able to make some birdies today. I believe had 3 or 4 on his round, was solid with the iron play early, was a few under par, and completely unraveled on his back 9. So in terms of momentum, obviously going in an opposite direction as somebody like a Mark Leishman, but from a skill set perspective, absolutely love the fact that Siwoo Kim is an aggressive player, very strong with his iron play, tends to be a little bit streaky with his flat stick, kind of similar to a Mark Leishman. But if there's one thing that Siwoo Kim did well today, it was putt. I mean, even when he was making double bogey, he was making some 7 to 8 footers for double bogey. So, it was the ball striking, particularly the off the tee play, that really haunted him today. And when it comes to birdie or better production, the beauty is off the tee play doesn't matter, as especially with those double, triple bogeys, as long as you're going out there and making the birdies when you actually hit the fairway. So, much like Mark Leishman, we just hope that he hits 7 to 8 fairways tomorrow, puts himself in position on those easy holes to go out there, take advantage, and, get us just to that 4 number we need. So for Mark Leishman, I have projected for well over 4.5 birdies, close to 4.6. A lot of that is due to him playing in the morning wave. Siwoo Kim, a little bit less than that, 4.4 birdies. He is teeing off in the afternoon wave, but both significantly higher than the projections that I have him at. I'm going to be 2 of the most solid plays on the board. Now, if I wanted to take a few other birdie props, would consider taking Seamus Power. He's playing in the morning. He's there at 4 birdies. I'd even consider taking Jordan Spieth, somebody like a Patrick Cantlay, Scotty Scheffler, even a Sam Burns there at 4.5. All of the guys that are teeing off in the morning wave that have the firepower to go out there and make birdies in bunches would be targets of mine that I'd be looking to add to a few of the extra cards. And now lastly, the last prop I have my eye on is going to be Ricky Fowler, the under on his birdie or better matchup. He's going against Matthew Wolff, and Ricky Fowler didn't have his best stuff today, but more than that, Matthew Wolff looked pretty solid. And while he didn't make a ton of birdies, if he's going to go out there and, just clean up his game a little bit, kind of similar to a Mark Leishman, right? If he can just hit a few more fairways, that can just set up a few more birdie looks, then I think he can go out there and make birdies in bunches, because Matthew Wolff was making putts today. His around the green play was there. He just wasn't hitting enough fairways. So as a result, was playing from behind the 8 ball, was playing catch up, but playing catch up well. So well that he's still just 1 over par. Obviously needs to go out there and make 3 or 4 birdies tomorrow to go out there and make the cut. And unlike the guys that we're taking at 3.5 birdies, he doesn't need 4 birdies to win, right? He might go out there and make 3 tomorrow. And the beauty of going against Ricky Fowler is that he's been absolute crap over the last few months. He might only make 1 or 2 birdies tomorrow. So both of them teeing off in the morning, we'll be able to see them matching up towards the same time on the board, which is also a plus here. But I like a lot of the other props here on the board because of when they're playing. Both of them obviously playing at the same time doesn't give one the advantage over the other, but because of the momentum we saw today with Matthew Wolff, because of the long-term form we've seen for Ricky Fowler for some time, makes this one of my favorite matchups to target. And now, as always, matchups tend to be a little bit volatile, so if you're adding multiple cards, I would always differentiate with your matchup. So a few other matchups I would consider would be Mark Leishman over Denny McCarthy. So obviously, if you're not taking the over on the birdies, maybe take the matchup prop over here as a way to differentiate. Moving up a little bit further, take the Jordan Spieth over Joaquin Niemann. I think that's a pretty solid matchup to take. Tony Finau over Charles Howell III. Not a bad prop either. And then Scotty Scheffler over Keith Mitchell, another matchup prop that I had my eye on for the slate. Alrighty, that's all I've got for the round 2 picks. Before you hop on out of here, let me know in the comments what your favorite prop on the board is. Make sure you smash the like button as well, and also make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We are going to have content coming out for rounds 3 and 4 and all of the PGA Tour events for the rest of the schedule, so you won't want to miss any of that when it drops. And of course, going to have you covered for all of your showdown content too. So if you're playing fantasy golf there for Saturday and Sunday, I will be going live right around 7:30 to 8 p.m. Eastern time, covering everything you need to know for the single round slate. So looking forward to all of that, guys. Best of luck here for all of your round 3 slips. I know for the first round it was a little bit weird, right? 1.25x. At least it's profit, right? I know it's just a little chump change, but we'll get the big one here soon. So looking forward to it. Really got some positive vibes here for Friday's round, and excited to head into the weekend afterwards.